The awkward encounter. The spaceship. Stellar dawn floated quietly above a red alien planet. Inside, the long metal corridors buzzed with lights and voices from many different species. Humans, lizard-like Krelth, and giant bug-like Trini all worked together on this research ship. Jason, a young human engineer, was fixing a broken power circuit in Sector C. He wore a grease-stained shirt and had a small tool bag on his side. Sweat ran down his face as he crawled through the tight tunnel, trying to finish his task on time. "This place is a maze," he muttered. "Why do they build these things like puzzles?" Jason reached a metal door and wiped his forehead. He checked his tablet. The environmental core was supposed to be behind this door. Without thinking twice, he pressed the button to open it. Hiss! The door slid open with a smooth sound. Jason stepped inside and froze. The room was dimly lit, warm, and filled with a soft scent he couldn't recognize. At the center stood a tall alien woman. Her silver armor had been removed, resting neatly on a rack. Her skin was a smooth, dark violet. Her golden eyes glowed slightly in the low light. Her back was turned, but she turned slowly when she heard the door. It was Lieutenant Ricala, one of the most feared warriors on the ship. A member of the Urukai race. Over 8 feet tall, built like a goddess of war with long braids tied tightly down her back. Jason's eyes widened. His brain stopped working for a second. She wasn't wearing her battlesuit anymore. And between her legs, something hung that Jason didn't expect. It looked strong, proud, and natural on her body. But to a human it was surprising. Too surprising. Jason's face turned bright red. I'm sorry," he stuttered, taking a step back. Ricala didn't move. She simply looked at him calmly, a slight smirk forming on her sharp lips. Her voice was smooth but powerful. "Does the bulge between my legs intrigue you, human? Is that why you're acting strange?" Jason's mouth opened, but no words came out. He tried to look away, but his eyes were locked on hers. "No. I didn't mean... I thought this was the engine room," he finally shouted, turning to leave. But before the door could close behind him, she stepped forward. "Wait," she said. "You did not expect to see such a thing on a female, did you?" Jason paused. He felt like the floor would swallow him. His heart pounded like drums in his chest. "I just didn't mean to see anything," he said, still avoiding eye contact. "Sorry, really. I didn't know this was your private chamber." Ricala tilted her head. "You humans hide your shame behind clothes and embarrassment. My people wear who we are proudly." Jason turned, back slowly. "I'm not trying to shame you, I was just surprised." She walked closer, now standing just inches from him, towering above him. "Do not fear me, Jason of Earth," she said softly. "My kind are born with strength in body and spirit. This," she gestured casually, "is part of who I am. But your reaction, tells me more about your kind than you realize." Jason forced himself to meet her eyes. There was no anger in them, just curiosity. Maybe even a little amusement. "I've never met anyone like you," he said honestly. She smiled for real now, a gentle one. "That makes 2 of us." Suddenly, a small beep echoed in the hallway. Jason's communicator flashed. "Oh no, I'm late to the coolant panel inspection," he panicked. "I really have to go," she nodded. "Go, but next time knock before you enter a warrior's lair." He gave a quick nod, stepped back and nearly tripped over his own feet before running out. The door closed behind him. Inside, Ricala stood still, thinking. The human had been surprised, but not hateful, not mocking, just confused. Outside, Jason leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His face was still red, not just because of what he saw, but because of what he felt. Something about her presence shook something deep inside him, and neither of them knew that a pair of glowing eyes had been watching them from a shadowed corner of the hallway. The forbidden curiosity. Jason couldn't sleep. Even though his room was dark and silent, his mind kept showing him the same image. Those golden eyes, the quiet confidence in Ricala's voice, and the question she asked that echoed in his head, like a pulse. Does the bulge between my legs intrigue you, human? He had never felt so embarrassed or so strangely pulled toward someone. The next morning he tried to act normal. He fixed power panels, tightened vents, and answered calls. But deep down, something had changed. It wasn't just what he saw. It was how she didn't flinch. She didn't hide. She didn't even laugh. She had looked at him like she saw straight through him. At lunch, the crew sat in the common hall, trading stories and jokes. Jason barely touched his food. "What's up with you, Earth Boy?" chuckled Rollo, a bulky lizard man with a deep voice. "You look like you saw a ghost." Jason forced a weak smile. "Just tired." Rollo leaned closer and whispered, "Word is, you walked into the Urukai's den by mistake." "Still breathing, that's impressive." Jason's stomach turned. "How do you know?" Rollo shrugged. "Whispers travel fast, especially when it's about her." Jason stood and left, not wanting to be the center of gossip. Later, when the hallway was quiet, a voice stopped him. "You walk heavy when lost in thought." He turned quickly. Ricala stood near a power junction, arms crossed, her golden eyes sharp but calm. Jason swallowed. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I walk freely," she said. "Unless your people fear that too." "No one fears you," he lied. She raised an eyebrow. "You fear me." "I don't," Jason said too fast. She took a step closer. "Then why haven't you looked at me since yesterday?" Jason looked up at her face, forcing himself to meet her gaze. "Because I didn't know how to talk to you. Now you do." Silence. Then Jason surprised himself. "Why are you even talking to me?" he asked. "I'm just a repair guy. You're, well, you." Her eyes softened. "Because you looked at me and did not run." Jason chuckled nervously. "I tried." She actually smiled. They both stood quietly for a moment, as if something unspoken passed between them. Then she said, "Come, walk with me." Jason followed her down a quiet maintenance corridor that curved around the ship's outer ring. Through the long glass window, stars glittered like diamonds across space. "Tell me, human," she began. "Why do your people act like curiosity is shame?" Jason thought. "Maybe because we've been taught to fear what's different, or to joke about it. We're not used to being honest about what we feel." "And what did you feel when you saw me?" she asked. He hesitated, confused, surprised, maybe drawn in. She stopped walking. "Drawn in?" He nodded. "You're different from everyone I've ever met, and not just physically." Ricala looked at him deeply. "My kind believe the body tells truth. The bulge between my legs, as you saw, means I was born of warrior blood, royal even. But it also means I carry expectations. I was raised to conquer, not to question. Yet I always wanted to understand, not destroy." Jason listened, silently. "I saw the same in your eyes," she continued. "You did not hate what you saw, you just didn't understand it." Jason looked at her. "Maybe that's the start of understanding, admitting you don't know anything." She nodded slowly. "A rare thing." Suddenly, a red light blinked near the ceiling. A warning, a low-security alert. Ricala checked a panel. "Unauthorized scan in the data core, I must go." She began to turn. "Wait," Jason said. "Can we talk again?" Ricala paused. "If they allow me. Already there are whispers about us." Jason looked nervous. "Are you in trouble?" She smiled faintly. "Only if I care." "Do you?" He nodded. "Yes, I do." Ricala gave a soft, "Af." "Then meet me at Dock 6, midnight, we speak with no ears." And with that she walked away, her steps powerful and graceful. Jason stood alone, heart pounding, not with fear but with something else. He didn't understand her, but he wanted to. And far down the hall someone crouched in the shadows again, recording. The ship's judgment. Jason stood under the cold lights of Dock 6, his hands in his jacket pockets. Midnight had passed, but Ricala hadn't come. The silence around him felt heavy, almost warning him to leave. But he didn't. Instead, he thought back to her words, her voice deep, calm, and brave. Something about the way she spoke made him feel seen for the first time. Not as a human, just as Jason. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Not one pair, many. He turned. 5 figures appeared, all dressed in formal command uniforms. Leading them was Captain Dross, the insectoid commander of the Stellar Dawn. His hard shell reflected the corridor lights, and his voice clicked as he spoke. "Human engineer Jason Wells, you are hereby ordered to come with us." Jason's heart dropped. "What did I do?" "Violation of interspecies code 4B. Unauthorized contact with a Uruk-hai officer outside protocol." "I didn't do anything wrong. We were just talking." Dross's antennae twitched. Talking is dangerous when it leads to disorder. Jason was taken to the upper deck, a place he had never been. It was shaped like a circle, walls filled with glass panels showing the stars outside. In the center stood Rakala, her wrists locked in magnetic cuffs. Her expression calm, but her eyes burned with fire. Jason was shoved forward beside her. A tall alien with pale gray skin stepped out. He was from the High Committee. His voice was smooth, but icy. "We have reviewed the recordings, private meetings, emotional language, and clear physical tension. These actions threaten the fragile structure aboard this vessel." Jason looked at Rakala. "They recorded us?" She nodded once. "Always. This is their way." Captain Dross spoke again. "Uruk-hai warriors are not to mix with humans emotionally. Their strength is not to be softened. You, Rakala, have broken ancient code." Jason stepped forward. "But it was my fault." "Silence," barked Dross. "You are not on trial. You are just the temptation." Rakala's eyes narrowed. "I am no victim of temptation. I chose to speak to the human. I chose to walk beside him." The pale alien frowned. "Then you have chosen exile." Jason's breath caught. "Exile? For talking to me?" Rakala smiled softly, the first warm thing in that cold room. "Worse crimes have been forgiven, but choosing peace? That scares them." The committee turned to Jason. "You are to be reassigned to solitary mechanical duty. No contact with her. No communication. Consider this. Mercy." Jason clenched his fists. "I don't want mercy. I want truth." Rakala looked at him and nodded. "Then speak it, Jason." Jason turned to the room, his voice loud and shaky. "She's not dangerous because she's different. She's dangerous because she asks questions, because she's brave enough to be honest. You fear that more than any weapon." Silence followed. The pale alien finally said, "Take them away, separately. This connection is over." Jason was dragged out through one door, Rakala through another. They didn't even get to say goodbye. In the following days, Jason's world became small, a cramped maintenance room in the engine bay. He wasn't allowed near the upper decks. No more talking to crew, no contact. He tried sending messages, but they were blocked. He didn't even know where Rakala had been taken. But something kept him going. The last look she gave him. It wasn't fear, it was promise. 1 week later, late at night, while pretending to check pressure levels in a backup pipe, Jason heard a faint beep from his stolen device. A message. Just one line. "We fly in 2 days. Meet me at the fire hull at dawn." His heart skipped a beat. Rakala wasn't gone. She was planning something dangerous, and he was ready. The hidden threat. The fire hull was the oldest part of the Stellar Dawn. Once used for testing deep space engines, now it was abandoned, silent, dusty, and forgotten by most of the crew, a place where no security cams worked anymore. Jason stood at the edge of it, hidden behind broken crates and twisted cables. The glow of red warning lights made shadows dance across the walls. His heart raced. If this was a trap, he'd be thrown into a prison cell, or worse. But deep inside he believed Rakala wouldn't betray him, not her. Suddenly, He heard movement. A large figure stepped out from behind the pipes, Rakala. She was in her full warrior gear, chest armor gleaming, shoulder spikes extended, and her golden eyes focused. But she wasn't alone. Behind her floated a small black drone, projecting a holographic star map. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice low and serious. "They plan to send me off ship tomorrow, a prison ship." Jason stepped closer. "You're being arrested?" She nodded. "Officially, they call it reassignment to military command. In truth, it's exile. They want me away from here." "Away from you?" Jason clenched his jaw. "We have to stop them." Rakala looked straight at him. "Then help me steal a ship." Jason's eyes widened. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious." Before Jason could respond, a loud boom rocked the ship. Red lights flashed and a siren echoed down the corridor. "Warning, fire in the reactor deck. Evacuate Sector E immediately." Jason's blood ran cold. "That's where the coolant lines are. That's my section." He grabbed his toolkit and ran. Rakala followed, her steps heavy and fast. As they neared the deck, the air grew thick and hot. Smoke hissed from broken vents. Sparks flew across the floor like wild bees. Jason pulled up his shirt to cover his nose and dove under. "The control panel, it's sabotage," he yelled over the noise. "These wires were cut." Rakala scanned the room. "Someone wants the fire to spread." Jason worked fast. "If it reaches the cryocells, this whole wing could blow." Without hesitation, Rakala grabbed a fire shield and stepped into the flaming hallway. Her skin sizzled under the heat, but she didn't stop. She tore down a broken pipe and began smashing it against the wall, trying to block the fire's path. Jason finally rewired the power switch. With one last pull of the lever, the emergency foam system activated. White mist shot out, smothering the flames. Silence fell. The fire was out. Jason collapsed, coughing. "That was close. Too close." Rakala knelt beside him, her arms scorched, eyes burning with fury. "This wasn't an accident." Jason looked at her. "They wanted to get rid of both of us in the fire." She nodded. "Or make it look like a failed escape attempt." Then she handed him a small device. Something she took from the fire panel. Jason examined it. "A delay trigger. Someone planted this." "They know we're working together," Rakala said quietly. "They want us erased." Jason stared at the smoldering walls. "Then we don't have time. We escape tomorrow." Rakala looked at him, eyes softening for just a second. "Are you sure?" Jason stood up. "I'd rather risk dying with you than live lying to myself." She nodded. "Then we fly together." But neither of them saw the pair of blinking eyes watching from the ceiling vent. A spy had seen everything, and the report was already being sent to someone high in command. The escape plan. Jason had never broken a rule this big before. Sneaking snacks into the engine room, sure. Hiding when inspection officers came by? Absolutely. But planning a full escape from a government starship with an exiled alien warrior? That was something else entirely. He sat alone in the metal vents above Hangar Bay 9, watching the patrols move below. His hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. In one of the corners stood a small scout pod, just big enough for two. The name etched on it read, SRV-13, obsolete, perfect, forgotten by everyone, except Jason and Rakala. He tapped his hidden communicator. "It's clear. I count 2 guards. Meet me in 15. Static answered back, followed by her voice. "I'm already inside." Jason blinked. "Inside where?" "The pod." His mouth dropped open. What?" "Warrior secret," she said. "Hurry." Jason crawled down the side vents, heart pounding faster than the ship's engines. His boots hit the ground with a soft thump. He kept low, using the shadows. One guard passed by, yawning, not noticing him. He slipped inside the pod's hatch. Rakala was there, already setting the coordinates. "You were serious," Jason said, impressed. "I do not joke during war," she replied. He sat beside her. You think they'll follow us? They won't have to, she said calmly. They already know we're gone. Jason stared. Then why haven't they stopped us? Before she could answer, bang, an alarm went off outside. Red lights filled the hangar. They waited, Ricella said. They want us to run. Jason panicked. It's a trap? Ricella touched his arm. No, it's a test. She pushed a lever. The pod roared to life, but the doors to the launch tunnel didn't open. They've locked us in, Jason shouted. Ricella turned to him. Can you override it? Jason nodded, already opening the pod's control panel. I'll try, but it's old tech. Needs time. She stood and opened a top hatch, crawling up into the pod's upper defense turret. Jason worked fast, wires in one hand, a fusion knife in the other. Outside guards were gathering. Jason could see them through the glass, about 12, armed. And they weren't aiming to talk. Ricella's voice echoed from above. Jason, I will hold them. He shouted back, don't get hurt. I was born in battle, but now I fight for choice. She pressed the turret's trigger. Zap, zap, zap. A beam of purple light lit up the hangar. The guards dove for cover. Sparks flew. Screams echoed. Jason's hands moved quickly. Red to blue, green to core fuse, twist, spark. Then finally, a low hum. The tunnel doors groaned. Come on, come on! Boom! A shot hit the pod's right wing. Jason flew into the wall. Blood ran down his forehead. Ricella dropped down beside him, grabbing the controls. You did it. Now I fly. Jason wiped his face. I can fly. She gave him a look. You're bleeding. And slow. He laughed through the pain. Fair. The pod lifted, the hangar shaking with noise. The tunnel doors slid open just enough. The pod shot forward into space. For a few seconds, nothing but stars. Silence. Then laughter. Ricella laughed, loud and full. Jason laughed too, almost in disbelief. We did it, he said. She looked at him. We're not free yet. Behind them, 2 patrol ships turned from the main cruiser and began to follow. Jason's face dropped. We've got company. Ricella's hands tightened on the controls. Let them come. Back on the Stellar Dawn, Captain Dross stood in silence, watching the 2 dots on the screen fade into the distance. The pale gray commander stood beside him. Should we send more ships? Dross asked. The gray alien shook his head. No. Let them run. Let them burn. But what if others see them as symbols? He gave a cold smile. Then we'll make sure no one believes them. The moon of silence. The scout pod crashed through the thin blue clouds of an abandoned moon. Its engines sputtered. Metal groaned. Sparks burst from under the wing, then silence. Jason coughed hard as he unstrapped himself from the broken seat. That was a landing? Ricella stood slowly, brushing ash from her armor. No, that was survival. Outside the cracked window, the moon looked like a ghost. White rocks stretched for miles. Tall black ruins pierced the land, old towers from a dead civilization. Strange symbols glowed faintly on their surfaces. Jason limped to the hatch and looked out. Are we alone? No signals. No satellites, Ricella said, scanning the air with her helmet. No life, just bones of the past. Jason stepped out, the cold wind hitting his face. It's peaceful in a creepy way. They began walking, searching for shelter. Behind them, the crashed pod smoked quietly. Ricella's cape flowed behind her like a shadow. As they walked, Jason's legs gave out. He collapsed near a stone. I'm fine, he lied. No, you're not, Ricella said, kneeling. She gently pulled off his boot. His ankle was swollen and turning purple. You should have told me, she said. I didn't want to slow you down. She didn't respond. She pulled him onto her back and carried him like a soldier saving her commander. They reached an old ruin. Its broken archways led into a sheltered room carved into the mountain. Inside, Ricella made a fire from crushed tech and scraps. Jason watched her quietly. "You've done this before, haven't you?" "Too many times," she replied. "But never with someone who mattered." He looked into the fire. "You're not like the others." She stared into the flames. "Because I'm not afraid to care." Silence. Then Jason spoke. "Back home I was always called weak, too soft, too curious. I tried to act tough, but I just wanted to be seen." "You are seen," Rakala said softly. Jason's eyes met hers. "By you." She nodded. "And you?" "You looked at me, not with fear, but with wonder. No one ever did that." They sat there for a long time, fire crackling, stars watching. And in that quiet moment, two different worlds grew closer, word by word, breath by breath. The next morning, Jason woke to find Rakala standing outside the ruin, her body still and tense. He limped over. "What's wrong?" She pointed to the horizon. A ship. Far in the sky, a black dot moved slowly. Jason's heart sank. "They found us." Rakala narrowed her eyes. "No, that ship has no military markings." "Then who is it?" "I don't know," she said. "But I'll be ready." She placed a plasma blade on her back and walked down the hill. Jason followed slower. As the ship landed, the dust blew everywhere. The door opened with a sharp hiss. Out stepped 4 figures, tall, armored, and marked with Urukai symbols. But their armor was not from the Empire. It was older, rebel markings. One of them stepped forward. A female like Rakala, but with silver armor and a scar across her face. "Sister," she said, "you are not forgotten." Rakala's eyes widened. "Velsa?" The woman nodded. "We heard what they tried to do. We've been watching. You gave them a choice when they tried to silence you, so we offer you a new one." Jason stepped forward. "Who are you?" Velsa looked at him with sharp eyes. "You must be the human she risked everything for." Jason raised an eyebrow. "She risked everything for truth." Velsa smiled. "Then you'll fit in." She turned to Rakala. "We're building something new. An alliance of the forgotten. Urukai who reject mindless war. Humans who want peace, others too, but we need a leader." Rakala looked stunned. "Me? You started a fire. Now lead it." Jason looked at her, proud and nervous. Rakala glanced back at him. "Only if he leads beside me." Velsa nodded. "Then come. There's much to rebuild." As they walked into the ship together, Jason whispered, "Do you think this will work?" Rakala smiled. "No." Jason blinked. "Then why?" "Because sometimes," she said, "we must walk toward the impossible, just to prove it can be done." The message to the stars: a new ship, a new sky, a new war, this time not with weapons, but with truth. Weeks had passed since Rakala and Jason were rescued from the silent moon. Now they stood aboard a rebel command cruiser called the Emberlight, surrounded by beings from many species. Urukai rebels, human defectors, and exiles from across the stars. They weren't soldiers, they were believers, and they believed in her. The main bridge was quiet as Rakala stepped forward to the center podium. She wore no armor, only a deep blue robe, and the ancient crest of her family rested on her chest, not as a symbol of war, but of rebirth. Beside her stood Jason, in a plain jacket, his tools still strapped to his belt. He wasn't dressed like a hero, but everyone in the room waited to hear him speak too. The transmission began. Thousands of screens across ships, stations, and scattered colonies flickered to life. Rakala's face appeared in front of millions who once feared her name. "My name is Rakala, born of the Urukai bloodlines. I was trained to conquer, to silence, and to follow blindly. I was told that power is proven by crushing the weak." She paused. "But I was wrong. Or rather, they were." Jason stepped up, speaking next. "They told me not to look at her, to avoid what I didn't understand, to be afraid of what was different. But the truth is, I was only ever afraid of being myself." Rakala looked at him, then turned back. To the camera, We ran because we were hunted. We survived because we refused to hate. Now we are no longer running. Jason nodded. We're not just humans and Urukai. We're something new. A bond they couldn't predict. We are proof, Rakala said, that peace begins with curiosity, that love is not weakness, and that no code, no empire, and no law will stop us from being more. She raised her hand slowly, not in a salute, but in invitation. To all who feel like they don't belong, who were cast out for loving, feeling, or questioning, come find us. Jason looked into the lens. Because the future isn't built by those who stay silent. It's built by those who dare to speak. The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Then someone clapped, another followed, and suddenly the whole command deck was alive with cheers. That night, under a quiet sky full of distant stars, Jason and Rakala stood on the deck of the Emberlight. Alone, he looked up at the stars. Do you think they'll come? Some won't, she said. Many will mock us. Others may try to stop us. Jason sighed. So, nothing's changed? She stepped closer. Everything has. He turned to her. You're not afraid anymore? She shook her head. I was never afraid of battle, but I was terrified of being alone. Jason smiled. You're not alone anymore. She placed a hand on his. Neither are you. They stood together, silent. Then she spoke with a soft smile. Jason? Yeah? I still remember your face and when you first saw the bulge between my legs. He turned red. Please don't bring that up again. She laughed, a deep, full sound. But it brought us here. Jason laughed too. Guess curiosity isn't so bad after all. Rakala looked out into the stars. No, it saved us. And as the Emberlight sailed into the great unknown, two souls, once strangers, once feared, walked side by side into a galaxy they were about to change forever together.